Hello, friends. Welcome to A Little Room for Healing, where we aim to create a little more room in the world for authentic connection, insightful healing, and a deeper understanding of our hearts, ourselves, and each other through honest conversation. My name is Joel. I'm a Reiki and 13th Octave Lao Chi practitioner, a facilitator for deep healing, and your host. Today, I'm spending time with Ash Witham. Ash is a coach, creator, and facilitator. She is a course leader at Authentic Relating Training International, a certified coach through the Relateful Company, and she is now training in Somatic Coaching through the Strozzi Institute. She is the co-founder of Shadow Academy and ARCI Retreat, and committed to creating offerings that cultivate embodied expression for authentic connection and holistic intimacy. Together we discuss healing and connection, authentic relating, shadow work, and losing yourself in relation to others. We also take a little peek into my shadow. As usual, we start with check-ins so we can be more attuned with each other. Come on in. Hi, Ash.
Hey, Joel.
Thanks for having me at your apartment in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Don't know what we're really going to do, but I kind of have a map in mind.
That's one of the things that I love about the podcast is I don't know what we're going to do either. I know certain points, but what fills the space between those points is the journey. So we are here in your apartment in Los Angeles, and my first time here, and my third time being in your presence.
Yeah.
We met in last September, at a circling party that didn't really have any circling happening.
That's right.
Circling gathering.
It was a hangout.
It was a hangout. Hangout of people in
snacks.
a circling community.
Yeah, circling folks hanging out in a non-circular formation.
Exactly. It was,
yeah.
I don't know what the shape was.
Freeform shape.
Yeah.
Radical.
And then we had we got together and had a coffee at a coffee shop and talked and had a really wonderful conversation. And so I wanted to continue that in front of cameras and microphones.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
As one does.
The obvious next step in the evolution. It's okay.
So
Let me move your furniture around.
I'm just going to rearrange your apartment. And then, so thanks for being game.
Yeah.
To do this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And let's start off with check-ins about how we're feeling right now, what's going on with us. And I'll go first, and then I'll pass it over to you. And my check-in is, feeling very open and spacious today, right now. I'm enjoying the laughter that we've already shared. That feels good. I'm finding myself looking for harder feelings inside me, but I'm not right now, which is really nice, except a little tension in my neck. And I'm really curious and excited to learn more about you and see where this conversation takes us, and to see what kind of shares come out of me in the process as well. Over to you, Ash.
Love all that. I'm noticing this perpetual feeling that I need to clear my throat, which is really inconvenient for this current context. That's a present sensation. And I'm noticing such a surprising feeling of comfort and ease, also loving the laughter, and just feeling in the seat of myself and buckled in for mystery here and mystery in life right now, which historically I'm not all right, I'm buckled in, let's go mystery. Normally I'm whoa, no, but I think it's time. I'm feeling like I have more resilience and spaciousness around the unknown. Finally. For now, check in tomorrow. Maybe it's like, never mind. Sure. This was a one-day thing here.
We'll do another check-in tomorrow.
Yeah. Great.
What? Yeah. Oh, sorry, if there's more.
No.
Okay.
No.
I am curious what about the present moment feels like the mystery is life, but is there a certain mystery unfolding that is in your life right now?
Yeah, a lot. I don't really stay up with the stars and all that, but I know that we're like in between two eclipses, and so to joke with myself, sometimes I blame it on that. But for me personally, I'm just noticing a chapter of like a lot of challenge and unknown and shifts and endings and beginnings. And it's, if I were less resourced, I maybe would crumble under all of it. Like, whoa, this is actually insane. And I think I did crumble quite recently under all of it. And then this is the me that's like, well, I emerged from the rubble of the weight of my little life on top of me. And this is how it feels to be like, oh, I survived all that. And I'm actually, I'm okay. And after that, like, it actually honestly felt so hard recently that I was like, joking with people in my life, I'm looking for a spiritual awakening. Doesn't that come after like dark nights of the soul? Like, isn't that what comes next? So like, maybe I didn't have that and it wasn't this like huge moment, but I'm feeling somehow just suddenly more equipped. Like, all of my resources, all of my tools, everything I teach has like caught up with me, and I'm like, oh, this is when I use it. I practice and I train and I stay committed to these things for this moment when it's the hardest. And I forgot at first. It was so hard. I just was like, never mind, coping mechanisms, strategies. And then in reality, I'm like, oh no, this is when I use all that. This is what I've been training for. This is what I've been practicing for. It's for right now. And I just finally started implementing my own resources and practices more. And yeah, I've had a commitment I've been working with for over a year now around trusting the unfolding mystery. And I'm feeling it today and yesterday, particularly. Yeah.
The trust?
Yeah. Yes.
And feeling open to it and feeling able to go into it. Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah, it's like I tore my hamstring in September, and I've torn the left one before, and it took 3 months to heal. So I was like, okay, 3-month journey. I know how to do this. I can heal it. And in reality, I'm like, I don't know however much time it was from September 25th till now. It's like over 5 months, and I'm still healing it. And now it's like developed into a different issue. It's like, and through that, I stopped being able to rely on the things that I was doing at the time, yoga, a lot of dance. And then it brought me to my first time ever, like a regular practice in breath work. And I was doing it multiple times a week. Now I'm doing it 1 to 2 times a week. And breath work has been such a key part of my life right now, and exactly what I needed, more than dance and yoga and these things that I've done a lot in the past. And so I'm like, okay, what a mysterious unfolding. Like, I could have seen my hamstring injury and this lasting even longer as like just a nuisance, but it's actually been an opening. And one day my hamstring, I will be healed of this particular thing, but in going through it, there was a real gift. So using that really simple and not too dramatic example, I'm like starting to look at some of these recent events in my life and realizing like, oh, this might be quite similar. Like, it looks like an ending. It looks like heartbreak, or it looks like I didn't get the thing I wanted. And I'm like, maybe something else is unfolding that I can't see right now. And that the version of me, I can only see so far. And there's something around the corner. It's like, yeah, this is what it's like. It's like I can see, oh, wait, there's a corner. And I don't know what's behind the corner, but something is over there. And it might be better than what I was, like, attaching to.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I actually am feeling that same thing going on in my life as well.
Wow.
In ways. Like a lot of like compression, a lot of contraction happening and being like, it's just going to keep squeezing. But I'm also going, no, this is happening because of what's around the corner. I'm getting squeezed so that around the corner I'm going to open and then something will come in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds very similar.
I had something and I just lost it. This happens to me often. I wonder what's going on with my mind. Oh, this is what I was going to ask. So when you are in this contraction state, or when you are working with things that feel a little harder, and you're then reminding yourself, I don't know what's around the corner, but something good is going to come out of this. Something is going to open up for me. When you're in the contractions, when you're in the difficult times, and sometimes you lose sight of the fact that it's for a reason, for a purpose of opening, are you able to be compassionate with the part that isn't able to see it as an opening and just sees it as this is too much?
Yeah. If I'm understanding you, totally. It feels really up for me, not in the last few days, but in the last few weeks, and maybe even zooming out to the last few months since we first met. It's felt like such a huge transformational time for me, of a lot of big almosts, and then it didn't work out. And in the it didn't work out moment, I'm someone who deals with attachment. I can get attached to I really want that. And on the one hand, that's a superpower of mine. When I'm dreaming up a retreat and people are like, it cannot be done at this venue or in this way. And I'm like, no, I see it.
It's the way it's supposed to be.
And I'm like, I'm going to make it happen. And so it can be a superpower because then I can overcome hardship or obstacles or odds or things pressing against me because I'm holding the vision. But that same superpower of holding the vision can be in the shadow of actually just being attached to a particular outcome. So when I catch myself attached to a particular outcome, which is what I think you're asking about, I'm generally committed to feeling the pain of that, feeling the I wanted it to be different. I wanted it to work out, and just being compassionate to little Ash inside, or the part of me that really was courageous enough to long for something, and to have that emotion be fully expressed. And there's a lot of different things I do to be in that. But it reached a point recently where I was like, okay, enough expression, enough being in this, it's time to move on. And so I felt myself in my own resistance of wow, I'm still here. I'm still in uncomfortable sensation, hard emotions, the feeling of loss, grief was just extending over such a long period of time. And really I find I just had to surrender even more to it and let it okay, wow, I'm still here. I'm still not fully trusting what's around the corner, not fully surrendering. And ironically, and of course, then it really started to move.
What you just said, not fully trusting what's around the corner, but you were I'm in the discomfort. All we have is the moment we're in. So if we're even holding on to what's around the corner, we're still not in what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And if what's happening right now is grief, we have to be with that.
Yeah, and then what do we do when we're saying yes to the present moment, and then also there comes a time, I think, when I'm wow, am I indulging in this? When I'm really fine-tuning my own inner compass around embracing what's here, and also knowing the difference of like, it's time for me to resource myself and not just continue to indulge in feeling this, but like, okay, let me titrate and take a break and like take care of myself. And
it's good.
Not just stay in, because I can really stay in. Sometimes I need to not. Like, come up for air, yo. Yeah.
That's such a great reminder. Yeah. I also have a tendency to really, really soak up the discomfort. Like you say, indulge. I'm like, I soak it up. I'm like, this is the way it is. I'm so used to this. Watch how I hold it. Watch how I'm with it. Even if I'm not holding it, I'm still in it. Yeah, and that's the forgetting the tools. That's when the tools are forgotten of how to actually care for myself in that space. Like you were saying, these are the times where I've trained for.
Yeah.
All the stuff to help myself, to care for myself, and to bring myself through it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if I were to use an analogy that probably makes sense to most folks, it's like working out and feeling the discomfort of like my muscles burning, I'm feeling fatigue, and you don't just keep going. You don't just work out forever. You eventually like, okay, time to drink some water, time to take a break, time to get off this mountain and like get renourished, like go eat, take a break, rest my muscles for a few days because they're going to be sore, instead of this impulse of like, it's good to always stay in. Because I think it can be like a pendulum swing of like, I perceive in my participants and in my clients and in my peers and in myself, like the instinct is to immediately get out of discomfort, and then now there's like this culture of like staying in, but then there's a shadow in the staying in. So like really finding, the rightness and nourishing and taking care, resourcing in between those deep stay-ins.
What about an instance where it feels like you're in a situation where it's nonstop and you're not the one that's indulging in it, it's just nonstop on you?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
I feel like I've been in that kind of recently, where it was nonstop in the sense of like 3 weeks of really grieving a loss, and feeling surprised, like noticing I'd put a timestamp on, it'll probably take this amount of time to be over this. It'll probably go around this kind of trajectory, have more or less this arc, maybe some ways, but instead it was like intense. Like I'd have days of like, I'm good, and then like 2 days later I'm like, wow, I am back in. I'm in this again, and I really felt this feeling quite recently of like, I need to get out of my own I'm so upset. I was like in the stage of grief of like anger, and I actually had to just go more into that, and of course behind the anger was more grief and more sadness and more pain, and love that.
Yep.
And then really like going behind the anger even to feel like the other layer of sadness and grief and pain. And to bring in my line of work, I'm like committed to bringing this to connection, and I'm in the balancing act of also being with that in myself and connection to self. And it was really in like bringing it to connection, I felt a lot of movement. Yeah. And I felt honestly quite liberated since. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Not sure that answered your question actually at all, but
It did. What I got from the answer was that in that case, when it's something that you're not indulging in, that's something that's just on you and happening, that you just stick with it. and you go in and you allow it more, and the allowance is what gets you through it.
Yeah, and hearing that back to me, I'll add on, like, I will find out probably again the hard way that when I try to titrate with unhealthy coping mechanisms, it can be a moment of a break, but it can also immediately just mean, like, now I've avoided feeling the feeling that wants to be felt, and it just means I'm in this for longer. Instead of staying in, like, wow, I can't not feel this, just really honoring that and truly letting that feeling run its course. Which, as I say, that might be a luxury. Maybe not everyone can just make time for that in their days.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that in my case a lot. I have a lot of time on my hands, and I don't, because it's not a 9 to 5, 5-day week, 9 to 5 job. I'm not forced to be around other people and have to hold it all in and try to push it aside to get a job done because people are watching and people need production, something productive to come out of you. So yeah, a lot of people don't have the time that I have to sit there for like 2 hours a day and be like, oh.
Like when it arrives, maybe some people are like, after their lunch hour, they're like, it's here, I'm feeling the grief, and they don't have the luxury necessarily. So yeah, it is my awareness of also having making my own schedule and being in that freedom, like it's a gift, and I hope to share resources with other folks so they can create space for themselves in this context and culture that to me is like, what? That's not how we're supposed to, like, that's not human. Like, you even said it, like, produce something productive. Like, we've become just these production machines. It's like, wow, it's a little bit silly.
Yeah, humans do produce, but I feel like humans produce when it is naturally wanting to be produced, and like to force production is not humane. It doesn't feel humane to me. It doesn't feel like humanity.
Yeah, and that's like the norm. That's the overall Western culture.
What are ways in which you want to share or share these tools with the world?
What are the tools, or what are like the means of disseminating the tools?
What are the means of disseminating? What are your means of disseminating these tools? And if naming these tools while answering that question happens, I'm cool with that.
Okay. You're open to that. Yeah, my ways are, the main form is in workshops and trainings and courses and a retreat, an annual retreat, maybe more to come in the future, and one-on-one coaching, so some kind of straightforward ways. And I really love the one-on-one setting so much because I really appreciate totally giving all of the power of my presence to one person and realizing my presence is extremely powerful when I really give it to somebody. And I really love the group space because I believe that hurt happened in connection, and a lot of our hurt can only heal also in connection. So it's like you can be doing your journaling, you can be doing your vision quests, or even your talk therapy, but that's not a connection necessarily in that regard in talk therapy and in traditional therapy. Or even maybe for some folks in a coaching client setting, that's not necessarily a connection. So that's also why I appreciate having a background in relational coaching. So I'm like in relationship to the person, and we're talking about our relationships to the thing that we're in. But I really do believe that like so much of our hurt happened in connection, and at a point it must be also healed in connection. So the group setting, even if it's not the person, it's not that it needs to be healed with the person who who you're pointing at created the pain. And I say that on purpose of like who you're pointing at created the pain, because a lot of times we're creating it for ourselves when we're like, it's you. You broke my heart. Or you let me down, or you didn't show up in the ways that I needed. But I do think so much healing happens in community and in being witnessed, even being really deeply heard and held by others. And also doing that for someone else.
Agreed. It's in my personal journey, I do so much hermiting.
Yeah.
And solo work, do a lot of solo work, and so much so that while I'm stepping into community spaces more lately, it's a challenge to do that. It's a challenge to get into relation with people again, because I've been so like, I'm safe this way. But the healing, the hurt did happen with people around, and I'm not going to be able to heal that unless I'm around people and feeling those feelings that arise with those people and working through the things that come up because I'm with people.
Exactly. Yeah, and some folks, the hurt is in being alone. Like, they're like afraid of their own company. And I think it's not this or that, it's both. It's like weaving in and out of like, this part I heal on my own, and then I bring myself to connection with this new, like, I'm proud of this new healed part, but now I bring it into connection and see how I do with it now. Instead of just like, well, I'm great as long as I don't interact with another human being. Like, that doesn't, like, what is that? You know? And then on the alternative, like, I'm great as long as I'm not left to my own devices. Like, it's really important to have this holistic, in my world, this holistic approach to our healing journey, and that it's not linear, and that there's a lot of weavings in and out. But I'm definitely an advocate for the healing and connection piece.
And part of that you do is through authentic relating.
Yeah.
And there's other things you do, but that's very connection with other people.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about what authentic relating is?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, authentic relating is one of the things I'm the most trained in and really stand behind. And it's not the only way that I approach connection, but it's one framework for communication specifically. But it also includes, beyond that, I think when folks hear authentic relating, they're like, oh, I know what that is. It's just relating authentically. And then I'm like, what is that to you, actually? And people get really hung up on the word authentic, and they're like, yeah, that's me, I'm honest. And that's when I have an assumption that they're particularly not. Because I think that folks think honesty is saying whatever's on the top of their mind and then being like, well, that's just my truth. And that's not, I would press that and check, like, what's behind that? What's behind what you just said, that you just said, oh, that's just my truth? A lot of times it's something like, I can't think of an example right now, but maybe like, it's so annoying that you're always late whenever we hang out. Someone might say that and be like, look at me, I'm being honest. And then I want to know, like, what's behind that? What's the deeper cut of what you're trying to say here? And it's actually, I feel let down by you. I don't feel respected. I feel hurt. What's the deeper cut of that? Like, I miss you. I want to be closer to you. Now we're in authentic relating. Now we're bringing our truth to relationship.
It's got chills. Just from that example, it got chills. What?
You're not hot anymore.
Yeah. I was sweating before, and now I'm like cold. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I've never quite explained it that way, but I'm glad that landed in a frigid way for you.
In a frigid, well, not frigid chills to be.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So it's just what's the deeper cut, and how do I bring this, how do I be courageous enough to stand on the platform of vulnerability and actually say what I mean. And it's not to just floodlight people with like, here's what's, you don't just skip to the deeper cut. It's like you navigate relationship with a lot of tools, a lot of self-awareness. Authentic relating requires so much of deepening your connection to self so you can be self-aware, to know 3 layers down, which I think folks don't do.
Yeah, question on that. When you say it's not just jumping down to the bottom, my mind in it is that that's because we're working with 2 people's depths and 2 people's experience in the moment. So if you go straight down to the bottom, this person might not be ready for it. Is that kind of part of it? You're kind of like working together to be with each other in the experience of going deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. That can be a part of it. And it's also like, I notice that when folks come to a training, for example, in the training setting, I really think the word training is correct. Like, it's a lot in a short amount of time. Like, you're really training to learn the ins and outs of authentic relating. And you can suddenly have all these new tools, but you don't have a lot of reps in with these new tools. So you might just skip and try to use those with someone who doesn't have the same context as you or awareness. And then it's like, again, you're not in authentic relating if you're not meeting the person in front of you where they're at. That's the relational part. Yeah. So half of the equation is being relateful, being in relationship with the person in front of you, and staying in relationship with yourself. So it's like we're building this scaffolding that can hold more depth instead of just nosediving into more depth without something to hold us there. And I know that I can get excited and just go straight for it. And it's not, it's one way. It's one approach.
Me too.
Yeah, I wondered. And it's not actually necessarily the most, what I'm realizing again and again and again in the deeper layers for myself, it's not necessarily the most loving thing I can do for me. It's just because I'm aware of this deepest cut of what's up for me, being fully revealed in it might not actually be living in my ultimate truth. That's me saying what's happening, looking like I'm being really honest. But if I could slow down, which is tattooed on my wrist,
really?
as a reminder. Slow down.
That's good.
Yeah. Then it's like I can realize, like, what is it that I'm actually needing to be in right relationship with me and with this person? Is it being the most revealed possible? Sometimes absolutely yes. Yeah. Sometimes it's like, I need to slowly enter more depth and truth. I need space and time to generate trust. I need to see that you're still here tomorrow before I tell you what's really up for me today. There could be, endless things.
What would, for you, be some cues in the relational field with someone that would cause you to notice, that would make you notice, I need to go slower with this particular relational interaction?
Yeah. If they're moving fast, if they're being very revealed with me when we haven't built the type of relationship to hold that much vulnerability yet. I think in a lot of the spaces that I occupy, vulnerability is used as currency, and it's like, look at how vulnerable I'm going to be. And I like to share that it's not, in the trainings that I hold, I'm like, this ain't the vulnerability Olympics. You're not going to win an award if you're the most vulnerable here. Like, a concept from one of my teachers that I love, and it feels so right for me, is called the tender edge. And it's really expanding your comfort zone, growing it a little bit at a time, just really not blowing past it, so that the next day you're in this vulnerability hangover, and not staying in your comfort zone so you're like, oh, I'm exactly the same as I was. But like really in a healthful and sustainable way, expanding what's in your capacity. So when somebody floodlights me with intimacy that our connection hasn't actually, like, one way I'll put it is, have I earned the right to hear that story? Like,
Right.
have we earned the right to be this revealed together?
That reminds me of our coffee shop hang.
How so?
When I started talking about my urethra trauma. And I was even like, do I want to even say this to you? And then it like started coming out, and I was like, I'm saying it, but like, is this right? And I've done that so many times in the past. I've just been like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh my God. Now they know that about me, and I don't even know if they're able to, like, what's going on in them. That's like, I just gave them way more than they needed, or maybe they were able to hear from me, a person who they just met.
How was that for you when you
Horrible.
shared with me?
When I shared with you, it was fine.
It's like horrible. Oh,
Horrible.
Sure.
Horrible. That's why I wanted to have this conversation. I really like, can we talk about it? No, I'm just kidding.
I need a recording, and we need an audience for that.
It happened towards it came out towards the end of our hang, and we
Yeah.
spent like, I think we were hanging out for like 2 or 3 hours. So
We earned it.
We earned it. 2 or 3 hours.
Let's talk about your core trauma. Don't worry, I'm a professional.
Yeah. How was it for you?
I do remember it a little bit, and it's not to say that telling a more or less stranger something core to your being, I'm not necessarily advocating that that's always off the table. And I think what I'm speaking to is like checking in. This is how I do it. It's like, what is this in service of me sharing this? Is this like, this is up for me, and this needs to come through me right now, and everything I'm sensing about this moment and this real-time connection and my own aliveness says proceed. And this is the important check. Can I hold myself no matter how the other person responds? If I'm actually needing the other person to respond in a particular way, and we haven't built the type of relationship that I know I can ask for that, or I can trust that I'm going to get that, then it's like, slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
Slow your roll, bro.
Underneath slow down is going to be slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
On your on the other wrist. Yeah. Slow down. Slow the fuck down.
Like, oh, you didn't. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's great. That's definitely something that I've been working with, is slowing down. I just talked to my therapist today about it. Slowing down.
How's that going?
Great. I'm making really good strides.
Slow strides or
Slow
leaps?
strides. I'm taking slow strides and slowing down.
We're gonna take the slow approach to slowing down.
Because I can't quickly slow down. Because I'm so. I need to get it into my system. The slowdown in my system. So
it's a daily practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hurry up and slow down.
Hurry up and slow down. It wouldn't work. That would be jarred.
That's true.
It would be jarring. It's going great. I was talking to him about some really actual positive strides forward in the slowdown that have happened over the last just a couple weeks alone that we were celebrating. So. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Celebrating you.
Celebrate the slowdown.
Celebrate that good old slowdown. Life is constantly giving me opportunities to remember to slow down. And even when I think I'm making new moves, which I have been making new moves and inviting others into slowing down with me, it's like it's not always your pace. It's like the pace of life, pace of another person. And on top of that, I noticed even in making new slow down moves, a part of me was still quite fast internally. Like I heard myself asking verbally to slow down, and then I felt parts of me still moving quite fast inside. It's like, not all of me is on the same speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Totally.
Those are there's parts that are fast inside of it. Like I can mentally be like, slow down, and then this part is like, I need it now.
Yeah, and those parts for you, I'm curious what they are. I know for me, and what I assess in others is that they're protective parts. The parts that are like, quick, let me feel secure. Quick, let me assure myself of something outside of me so that I can rest over here.
It's very attachment based. Which attachment is that? The
Anxious attachment.
Very anxious attachment based.
Yeah.
These
Totally.
parts. Speaking of slowing down, it seems to me that it's time for a little energy healing.
Great.
And we'll take a little break from this lovely conversation that I'm enjoying and do a little energy work on you. Would you, in your time, no need to rush, as we transition here, somewhat abruptly, but would you like to feel into, well, first of all, do you have any questions about what's about to happen, which is 13th octave Lahochi?
I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
So, interesting. I can feel an impulse in me to be like, tell me all about it. And then I'm also like, wow, it feels so on theme for our conversation and for this moment of like, trust the mystery.
That was cool. I was noticing that too.
Yeah. Just lean in. Just trust what's about to unfold. Yeah.
Sweet. Which one are you going with?
I'm going to lean into the not knowing and feel and just embrace the unknown here.
Fun.
Yeah.
Well, great. In that case, would you like to set an intention for this session?
I think it just feels like more of that, like nervous system training around not knowing what's about to happen and knowing that I'm okay. Knowing that a phrase that I've been saying to myself recently is like, this is happening for me, not to me. Just like, not, I don't mean you necessarily, whatever you're about to do, but I want to take all that back.
Thanks for clarifying that.
I want to take all that back. But more like, more like just not needing to, my intention is to embody not needing to know what's about to happen, to embody knowing I've got me underneath any circumstance, embody trusting, that things are happening for me.
Great. Well, in that case, we will be right back after Ash's 13th octave Lahochi session. And we are back from Ash's 13th octave Lahochi session. I am super curious about how it was for you. I believe, because you had said to me beforehand, I asked you, right before we did it, if you got an energy healing before. You said only one other time formally with an actual session. So this is your second formal session. So I'm curious about what your experience was like.
Feels like a subtle art that I'm not used to. I notice my constitution is intense.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
Like, the body worker that I go to that is my favorite, it's like I'm on the edge of pain the entire time, and I'm like, perfect.
Got it.
So this felt very different when I think of that says a lot about me. When I think of healing, I'm like full bore, like let's, and I just did an ISTA recently, which I'm not like I also believe in softness and subtlety and nuance, and that's just not my go-to sometimes, most often. So, yeah, it felt subtle and restful, and now I'm like a little less sharp in the mind and a little more soft in the body. Mm-hmm.
How does that feel for you, that state?
It's slower, so we had left with slowing down. I guess I've slowed down a lot.
We did it.
Yeah, that feels achieved. I can feel the parts of me that want to like measure change, and they don't know how. Like there's nothing I can measure right now. Yeah. And we didn't talk about it yet, but you said that you liked the session, so I'm curious what you liked about it.
I liked, one thing I liked about it is recently I've had a lot of energy compressing me lately, and I haven't been as spacious and open. And I've been noticing how that has been affecting my work in the energy healing space and what I'm giving. And I just moved a bunch of energy last Saturday out of my system and feeling much more spacious. So I was really enjoying going back to having that much room and working on someone and feeling a little more, being able to feel the energy flow through me a little easier, and feeling like time and breath in the work, which I was grinding up against for quite a bit of time over the last month and a half, 2 months. So I really enjoyed that. It felt like you were deeply relaxed. So that's always enjoyable to bring the client into that kind of relaxation that is healing. And whenever stomachs start to gurgle a little bit, which yours did a little bit, and even mine was doing a little bit, that's a really good sign of healing happening. Your body gets really into the rested state where it can really do some healing. So that was nice to hear. Those are the...
Sorry, I just thought about the moment that I snored for a second, which like I realized is like an entire identity crisis. I'm like, I don't snore. But I had this moment that I woke myself up from a snore.
Yeah, you were... When I got to... There's a position at the neck, the throat. And when I started... Shortly after I started that position, you started... this wasn't even the time when you had the big snore that woke you up, but you started going... Which most people do when I get to the neck. It's something about the throat, I think. And it always... when you did the snore, like, did you feel like you were asleep, or were you kind of in the hypnagogic state?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. It was funny, though.
It was funny.
It was eyes open for a split second, closed, and then you like shook your legs. You give your legs a shake.
Yeah, just shake that off or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I also added something new, something that I don't usually do, which is I did a little Reiki at the end, because you were talking about your shoulder and your hamstring. So I was curious if anything came up for you, or how that felt for you, those two spots.
I felt the most during that part. Maybe it was also the time that I was the most awake. I do think I was in like some sort of liminal space, like immediately went into some rest. Very comfortable in my space, on my favorite pillow, and then like your peaceful music, you're barely touching me, and so during that part I was the most awake, but also I just felt like a subtle feeling of my entire body. Like I didn't necessarily feel too much focus on the areas you were in necessarily, but like my whole being and whole body was kind of like, it wasn't vibrating, but something just palpable. Like a really subtle microdose of something.
Oh, it's cool.
Like super like, oh, am I coming up on something? Yeah. But now I'm just like, oh, I could go to bed. Yeah, I'm really sleepy.
Cool. Well, I hope.
And I still don't know anything about it, so I'm like, what was I supposed to feel? I'm like, what happened? I basically just fell asleep. So I'm still in the active mystery. Yeah.
So, as far as your intention, do you feel like? I mean, that's what you did. Just to be, you're like, I just want to be in the active mystery. So.
Yeah, success, like, I guess.
Continued.
Yeah, I mean, there were moments when I was more awake that I watched my mind, like, kind of plan, what am I going to have for dinner? Or, like, oh, am I going to do this? You know, and then I was like, what? And I try not to make that wrong. And I'm just like, okay. Like, when I catch myself in a future thought or, like, oh, what do I want to say in the second part of this podcast? Or, like, oh, I wish I said that differently. I'm just like, oh, look, like, noticing that my mind is busy. And then I'm just kind of like, what's it like? Like, do you need to be here? Or what would it be like to come back to this mat? And I just kind of ask myself and let myself choose.
I like that it comes in the form of a question. What would it be like to come back to the mat?
Yeah, like giving myself a real choice, consent, trauma-informed personal leadership.
Yeah.
Giving myself, instead of making chastising myself. Like, even in breath work, often they're sharing with us, like, notice your busy mind, but truly when I'm in breath work, it is often my most creative time. Like, I'm just like flooded with ideas, and I'm like, I'm gonna let that come. like I'm just gonna let it be this beautiful opportunity for me to be this open channel for a lot of ideas to come through. So I don't think I can harness like which ideas I'm allowing in. I'm really interested in entering a chapter of my life that just has a lot more allowance, like a much bigger threshold for what's allowed in. Even the thought that's like, what am I having for dinner later? Just like, okay, of course, like, that's okay. And then next thing, just making more space in the experience of Ash.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
There's one thing came through me when I was at your thigh, your hamstring, and it was this happens more when I do Reiki than when I do 13th Active Lahoji, because I'm going this way more in 13th in Lahoji, and in Reiki there's a little more space and I'm a little more passive, so I'm able to pick up more things that are happening.
Okay.
And one of the thing that came through to me was a surge of emotion. It felt like tears, so I don't know if it's necessarily sadness or grief, which one, but right shortly after I started right here, felt like there's some grief or sadness around that area, possibly. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what came through.
Yeah, I just went to meaning making mode, but I just remembering the time of my life when it happened, and it was a really ripe time of personal reflection and looking at my stuff. So can't necessarily. I could draw lines into that, but yeah.
No need to. I was just noticing it.
Yeah,
that's what moved through.
Thank you for digesting that with me, for me.
Yeah. So there's another thing that you do that I'm curious about that I'd like to talk about a little bit, and that is you started a something called the Shadow Academy. And I'm assuming it has to do with shadow work.
You assumed right. Yeah, I co-founded Shadow Academy.
Yeah. Where did that come from? And can you tell me a little bit about it and like what the process is that you go through throughout the weekend or however long it is the retreat is?
Yeah. So that one has only been in the form of an online course, the Shadow Academy process. There's like the intro course and then an advanced course. And that started, I think it's just been in my nature to always be interested and willing to look at the thing behind the thing and to go towards the darkness, to be like, I really want to know the truth here. So I think that's always been in my nature. And then I was invited by my co-founder who has since handed off the project to me, and now it's mine to own. And he just invited me into it. I think he was like, I think you're great for this. And at the time, I was definitely still not in my full embodiment of leadership. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And this was just such a beautiful journey for me to really immediately step into some of my gifts around not just space holding, but experience creation. So we created a course that I feel super proud of, and I've edited it and let it evolve each time. Everything I do is relational, really. All of my offerings are using relationship as relating as a form of transformation. So I'm even relating to who shows up, and I'm adjusting accordingly. I'm not just like running a script. It's never like that. So the course has evolved and grown up with me and through anyone who's taken it. And the process is really a combination, and I kind of use the same process for everything, which is a combination of theory, self-reflection, and immediate practice. And then harvesting as a collective, as a group. What did you notice? What did you find? To like really integrate after the practice. So any theory that I present on shadow work, there'd be a practice to go with it so that you can immediately embody it. So everything is always, it's not just like sitting and passively taking in information and writing notes, but immediately getting it into your soma, into your body, and into your awareness of like, there I am doing the thing. There I am in my stuff. And then digesting that, integrating that, talking about that, processing that with your partner or partners who have had that experience with you, and also then with like the whole group, so that it can really fold it in. And then for Shadow Academy specifically, since it's a course online over several weeks, there would be assignments in between that I love so much. I'm like, how did we come up with these? These are really good.
I noticed that when you started talking about it, assignments, like you you lit up.
Oh,
just when you said assignments in between.
Yeah, because I've redone them every time I've taught the course. I've also redone the assignments myself, and there's always something new. There's always something new for me to find, and I know what the assignment is. I created it, and I'm also like, wow, this is gold. This is always it feels hygienic to me to just return again and again to these processes.
What draws you to shadow work? And I know you said you like to see what's behind the behind, which is also something that authentic relating does as well. You're just like, well, what's behind that? What's behind that? But like, what draws you to it?
My impulse towards wholeness, and like my willingness, but also commitment to be healing for my own, I didn't want to use the word actualization, but it's like, to me, from where I've been standing in the last few years, the perspective I have is you can't skip shadow work in your healing journey, and you can't skip really taking a hard look at yourself without shadow work. And the impulse of the shadow is that it wants to be integrated, and yet it's so hard to see. By definition, it is in our blind spots. It is behind us. It is that thing that's cast from our own light, but it's always there, always present, whether we look at it or not. So by being in the practice of just actively in growing that muscle to like take that look, like a like a deeper look at, like, seek for your blind spots. And also, by definition, you can't fully see your blind spots, so it is important to also have others' reflections, which is built into at least the course that we created, Shadow Academy, but also now in how I'm in maintenance with myself around it. And I feel that it's totally transformed like how I move through the world and how I move through, you know, any book of any greatness. I'm like, if something in it goes against, it's just like love and light. I'm like, well, I'm like, wholeness, baby. Like, well, what about wholeness? Like, you are all the things. You are sadness, and you are the capacity for sadness and happiness. You are the capacity for grief and ecstasy. Like, you hold it all. And in that wholeness, there's just like so much less fighting.
Yeah, that sounds nice. You said the thing that stuck out to me, one of the things that stuck out to me was the shadow wants to be incorporated. It wants to be integrated in us. And how hard, and it's in a blind spot, and it's in the darkness. And another thing that makes, in that darkness, one of the things that makes it difficult for us to incorporate it is that it's hard stuff to look at.
Yeah.
It's hard stuff to feel. Which is, I understand why a lot of people avoid it.
Totally. It's like, why would I want to look over there? And it's like, oh, if you don't, the consequence is you're going to be sabotaging your life and your relationships. I really think that's the price. And one of the easiest ways that you can find, if you're like, I don't know where to look, this thing I can't see, what triggers you? Like, when you look at somebody else and you're like, wow. Like, whenever you have trigger and projection, that is a ripe, easy place to find your shadowy material. Like, it's very fertile with shadowy stuff. Like, any example you could share with me, we could find some way to, like, oh, look in the mirror. And it's not always an exact, like, thing of, like, they did this and that's a part of me I'm not willing to see. But it's usually not so dissimilar. And it's so much easier to project that discomfort and that inability to accept in another person and totally not even notice how you're truly just not accepting that in yourself. And so, of course, you don't have capacity for bearing witness to that in other people. And so as we do more shadow work and we invite ourselves into more wholeness, we then just become more capable of accepting others and their wholeness and their imperfection and their totality. So it just creates a lot less trigger and, like, tension and projection, and so it requires so much ownership to really do this, which is hard. It's like, you got to be responsible for your stuff. And again, a lot of people don't want to do that. It's so much easier you, and then, you know, it's classic, like, look at the fingers pointing back at yourself. It's like,
Oh, I've been doing a lot of work on grounding myself in the joy and the happy and the good feelings, and grounding yourself in the dark and the shadow, like, but not like, oh, this is how it's going to be and I'm going to ground myself in, like, this is the way I am, but actually getting in there and going and being able to see it and hold it is grounding. You're grounding yourself in the ability to hold that these dark things or these shadow things are part of you. They both take so much work, is my point. Grounding in joy and grounding in shadow both take a large amount of work to do.
your joy could be your shadow. That could also be really your shadows. Anything that you can't say, I am that. That's a part of me. And so we call that the golden shadow. So anything that you're still projecting, like, oh, they're so successful. They're so good at being happy or rolling with the punches.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what if you just say, just like me, at the end of it? How does that
Just
feel
like
in your
me.
body?
Oh, that's cool.
Like, can you find the party that's like, oh, I'm resisting. I can't believe that as true. There's something there for you. And it's also fun to do with some, you know, what we might call more negative things, like, wow, you're so entitled, just like me. Like, it's just such a great, easy little exercise.
Oh, but just like me. Oof. I get really triggered by people who hurt me and don't see how it hurt me, and then aren't able to acknowledge that they hurt me, and then I feel like I'm not seen. And that is probably one of the biggest triggers I have that really dysregulates me. I'm curious about my shadow part of that, which I've been really trying to find and look at.
Can I try with you?
Yeah, please.
So just to make sure I'm understanding, you get really triggered when somebody's, they've hurt you and they're not seeing how, and they're not acknowledging it.
And they're not looking.
They're not looking.
And they're not looking at. They refuse to look.
They're not willing to look at it.
Yeah.
How they've hurt you. Is there a way that you haven't been willing to look at how you've hurt you?
There's activation in my body, so without being able to find it,
there's a signal. We can't tell what it is, but something's happening.
Yeah, spidey senses have come alive in my body.
Yes, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when I try that on in my system, because I have a similar trigger to you, I could try on, like, you totally missed me. You weren't tracking me, and in your, like, dropping me, I got hurt. And then I can just hold the mirror and say that to myself. I wasn't tracking me. I missed myself here. I did not catch myself in my needs in real time, and in losing myself, I got hurt.
That brought up some emotions in me.
What's it feel like?
Oh, like this. It feels like that feels like truth. That's what it feels like. Especially the, I wasn't tracking me. I dropped me. Yeah, that's real. And
it doesn't mean that they didn't also lose you, drop
right.
you, miss you, not willing to look at you.
Yeah.
It's just like maybe I also did that.
Yeah. If I'm become ungrounded when somebody misses that, that means that I haven't been holding myself in the relational aspect either. And I've lost myself. And yeah, that's definitely feels true in this system.
Yeah. So sometimes folks can get confused when when they're first starting shadow work, and think that now no one is responsible for harm or any, thing that upsets them. But that's not it. It's like capacity and truth just gets bigger. And it's like we get to take responsibility and come in. And why I say we get to is like we just come into more power when we take responsibility for our own well-being and our own lives and our own activation. But when we're like, we hand it over, it's like, you upset me, you dropped me, and I'm totally a victim until you right this wrong. Powerless. Yeah. We've totally given it away.
This is Yeah, this is wonderful. This is part of the thing that's been going on with me is unsafety, a feeling of not being safe.
Yeah.
With certain people, in certain relationships, and in digging through why that is the case, and when I look at my shadow in it, which I've been doing, I find that have a really hard time being safe just in me, and holding that safety. Yeah.
I really relate to you. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious what it's like for you, and what it's like for me is in so many different ways, realizing like I'm really wanting safe love. And I noticed, I realized I've been looking out. Where is the safe love?
I got it on the nose on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, like where? Who's got that in stock?
Yeah.
And then, I get to be it. I get to be that for me. I get to embody safe love. I get to generate this. And realizing, catching myself in how, even with that awareness of like, I have to be safe love for me in order to attract safe love and co-create it and cultivate it with another, and just continuously feed it to myself. It's like I can still catch myself with a lot of focus outward on seeking safety outside of self.
Yeah, 100%. And when one starts building the safe love in themselves, and that attracts them to the safe love in relation to someone else, it's highly, probably most likely that person has safe love for themselves.
Yeah.
Because they won't be able to offer safe love to someone else unless they have safe love for themselves.
Yeah, I would think so. And it also sounds like we're talking about secure attachment at the same time. Like maybe these are synonymous. I think they are. Like going back to attachment styles, as we were talking about earlier, like, am I in secure attachment with myself?
This is exactly what I've been working on.
Yeah.
Building the secure attachment with myself, because the anxious attachment is it's rough. it's rough.
What's it like? What's the rough
it's anxious.
What's
What's
the
the
rough
rough like?
Anxiety.
It's not being present with my body, and it's going into the past. When I was just talking about this with my therapist again. He comes up a lot, but it's me going into the future and creating what I think is going to be the safe thing. But in going to the future, I'm actually going into the past of what I feel like little me or past me needs, instead of being right here with what is.
Yeah. Does it feel like self-abandonment?
Yeah. Self-abandonment, dissociation. Yeah. Self-abandonment in the fact that I'm looking for someone outside of me to hold all the feelings that are going on inside of me.
Totally. And I also, as you were describing that so beautifully, I saw the visual of you like looking for safety by securing some sort of future context, but really it's based off of past. And then there's you in the present moment, and nobody's looking at that person. Nobody's like, what does present day Joel want, need, feel here and now? Yeah.
That goes back to, I stopped tracking myself.
Yeah. And then you're like
Makes
looking
sense.
out at the person, you missed me, just like I did.
Oh, that's good. Ooh. There it is. Hit the spot.
There it was.
Oh, that's so good. Ooh. Thank you for that. That was fun.
What's it feel like? in you right now?
What does it feel like in me right now? It feels like my present body, my body is tingling because it feels like it was truly noticed and seen and being integrated into the process of what's actually happening. When he's like, then my body's like, yeah, I am what's happening. I literally right now am what's happening. There's nothing else but this. And he's kind of like, see how good it feels?
He's kind of like, what?
See how good it feels?
Oh, to be here.
To be here. Yeah. Yeah.
And I get it. I get how terrifying it is to actually feel what it's like to fully be here now. There's so much to experience in this exact moment. And and then the next, oh, there's even more. And it's like, yeah, and we're also in a culture that doesn't like support slowing down to just be like, what's here right now? So it really requires an active commitment and just returning again and again and again to self and center. And I'm here like talking about it, and I'm gonna forget tomorrow. Yeah. And then I'm gonna remember. Exactly. And then I'm gonna, oh yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just for me. I'm like, it's okay that I'm gonna forget because I know I'm gonna remember, and the space in which I forget is becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. It can just be a moment. Oh, I lost myself for a moment. I forgot me for a few days. Oh gosh, let me be in the grief of having forgotten me for a few days, and then like, I'm back. Okay, let me make repair with me, and it's a whole process as it is in me today, up until now.
Even I'm even noticing that even in being here with you, listening to you talk about you or your experience, that it can be easy for me to go more into what's going on over there. And the balance just kind of goes off a little bit, and part of myself is like, what about stay in tune with me?
Yeah. So do you have a propensity to be looking outward? Yeah. That's a common trait of anxious attachment. And also there's a self-centeredness to it, which is kind of seems counterintuitive, but there's like looking outward to see, how are you relating to me? Am I good in your eyes? Like, or just making sure and not to say that's necessarily what's happening here now.
I can see, like, that is the case a lot of times. It is the case a lot of times. And in times like this, it's a propensity to really want to understand your experience as much as I can. So I put most of my energy into actually feeling what's happening when you're talking.
And how is that for you to lean into other? Can you come back to self, or do you get afraid of like, oh, I lost me while I was over there?
Depends on the situation. When I'm holding space and facilitating, the majority of the time, it feels really good to be in that experience, but I'm also holding myself. So like I'm able to be like, okay, I'm anchoring with the little bit that I'm anchoring with as much as I need to anchor myself to keep track of what's going on here. And then I'm able to like move much myself over there to be with that person. But I have that solid anchor. And then when it comes to a romantic situation, when it comes to when there's an attraction, then that anchor wobbles, and then I'm in. This is actually a whole different thing. This isn't the being able to be in your experience. That's the how are you relating to me right now? Mm-hmm. That's what happens in the attraction setting.
Yeah, totally. So you're using like this anchor analogy. I'll share the analogy I've used and see if it lands for you. I've used for myself and catching myself in it or being with someone else in it is like I have my own center of gravity, and then I've gotten close enough to someone, and now we've both altered our own center of gravity to now like we've changed our entire orbit to be like around each other in this way where I'm like, that's not sustainable. And then there's this, eventually for a moment it's like, oh my god, ecstasy. I've changed my entire orbit, the whole universe looks different suddenly. What an incredible feeling. NRE, baby. New relationship energy. And then it's like, wait, where am I? And then usually one person then falls back in anxiousness, one person falls into avoidance, and both people are then like, where's my orbit, where's my own center of gravity? And they're in this breakdown. And if the avoidant person can say, okay, I feel myself wanting to run away, I feel myself wanting to eject, I'm going to center, I'm going to ground, I'm going to take care of myself, but I'm going to stay in. If they can stay in, because the impulse of the avoidant person, their core motivation is to not lose independence. Like when they get triggered at their core, it's like, I'm losing self. So if they can stay in, we're in good territory here. Yeah. And then for the anxious person, when they get activated in their core stuff, which is, oh no, I've lost connection. Like that's that core motivation. Don't lose connection. And so then they self-abandon in order to pay for what they believe is the way to earn that connection back. And the core motivation or the way that they can come to transform this dynamic so it doesn't just play out the normal dance is they can self-soothe and not reach like, can you make, like, I need us to feel good, like I need something from you so I can, they have to self-soothe. So avoidant person has to stay in, anxious person has to not over lean, but like stay centered and self-soothe, and then they can transform this whole freaking dance instead of doing the normal dance of like avoidance and then anxious and then eventually, we know how that goes.
Yeah. And that is why I'm still single.
You just kind of do this dance.
I'm also happy to say that I've been the anxious and the avoidant. So.
Oh yeah, great. We love disorganized.
Yeah.
We love a good disorganized attachment style. You're just probably trying to make the balance. If you meet someone anxious, you're like, don't worry, I'll balance this out. I'll be super avoidant for you.
Yeah. That's how attuned I am.
Yes. You're like, don't worry, I know the other moves to make.
Oh man. But these like the stuff that I've been working on and the stuff that we've been talking about today, and even that little exercise that you went through with me, are all things that are like, I feel myself moving more towards having the secure attachment to myself.
Beautiful.
Very thrilled about that.
How do you know you're closer? What does it feel like or look like? Need some water.
I said that, and then something moved in my throat.
Yeah.
I was like, "You're believing it," because I'm believing it. That's what it feels like. I'm believing it, and I'm trusting my body more.
Yeah.
Which is huge for me. I'm sure for a lot of people, but I know definitely for me, like trusting my body is massive. And I was just able to say that honestly with full conviction for the first time 2 days ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow, this is massive.
Yeah. And so what we're talking about is like reinforcing this forward momentum that I'm on.
Yeah, this new opening, this new shape that you're taking.
Yeah.
New competencies. Wow, beautiful.
So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I feel like this is a really great place to bring it to a close.
Okay.
Wrap it up.
Yeah.
If that feels good to you.
Mm-hmm.
This has been wonderful. Totally enjoyed this conversation, and really, it's really wonderful what you're offering to the world and to people, and hope it continues. Is there any way that people can follow you or hear from you or contact you if they want to do any authentic relating courses or any of the retreats that you lead?
Definitely, yeah. So my website is my name, Ash Witham, WITHAM.com. That tends to have all of the upcoming courses, workshops, trainings. I create my own courses, as has been stated here. I also lead courses with Authentic Relating Training International, and I have a retreat coming up, ARCI retreat, Authentic Relating, Contact Improv, this year, again in the Redwoods. So amazing. It's a 6-day residential retreat. We've got a full staff, 5 folks holding a beautiful crew up there. There's still a little bit of space. That's in May 14th to 19th this year, 2024. And on Instagram, I'm Alchemy with Ash, alchemy.with.ash. And I think, I'm not on any of the other social media things like all the rest of the kids, but that's plenty of ways to find me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me and co-creating some healing today.
Yes. Thank you as well
Yeah.
for sharing your gifts with me and inviting me into this beautiful conversation. I had a great time.
You're welcome. And it was a great time. And to all of you, I invite you to make a little room for healing in your lives, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Thanks for making a little room for my podcast. I'd love to be a part of your journey too. Follow me on Instagram at A Little Room for Healing for news, updates, offerings, and connection. To book a session with me, go to www.alittleroomforhealing.com. If you'd like to support the podcast, follow the link at the bottom of the episode description. Have a beautiful day.